All right. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to give you guys a quick demo to help you lay out your images for Project 4 in Diptych, Triptych, or any other kind of um, layout you might want to do, just to put them all on one page so we can see them as like a complete set of images. So for some of you, I've kind of suggested considering how you can use the Diptych or Triptych kind of format for presenting images to visually reinforce what your project is about, to make things more of like a side-by-side comparison, et cetera, et cetera. However you want to do it, it's up to you. You know, if you want to upload 6 images, as we've kind of done for the rest of the project, you're welcome to do that. But if you want to do something a little bit different, and I think particularly for this project that's about image series and bodies of work, it's helpful to think about ways you might want to lay them out in a page. So we're going to do this by using the exact same template that we've been using previously, right? So the contact sheet, the output dialog. So obviously we've been using 5x8 contact sheet. It's not really what is going to look good for what we're trying to do here. So you could go to templates and you can go down to Triptych. It's not going to be this easy. And you could do this, right? If you wanted to lay out something like this, you could do that. You know, this is CS6. I don't have the luxury of accessing CC like you guys do. The school didn't give me that. But it should look similar for you. You have the document settings, the sizes. You can change the background. You can pick a custom background. If I want a gray, I could do that. Just like before, you're not going to be doing any kind of red. We'll go straight up gray. Just like before, you have to click the refresh button to have it update, obviously. The file name on there obviously doesn't look very good, so we're going to get rid of that by going to overlay and unchecking file name. Click refresh. Now it's gone. That looks a little bit better. So, you know, using their Triptych, which for some reason is vertical instead of landscape, we can switch to landscape and see what that looks like. So it's wider, but our images are still in a stack, right? So to correct that, you have to look at the layout tab right here. And we have 1 column and 3 rows. Well, if we switch that to 3 columns and 1 row, and we click refresh, it'll put them side by side. Now I typically like to set all of my margins, which are top, bottom, left, and right, to the same. In this case, I'm going to set them to 0.5. I'm going to set this to inches. I prefer to work in inches. We're not printing anything, so it doesn't really matter, particularly for you guys, but I like to think in terms of printing and what size I'm going to be printing stuff at. So, you know, I work in inches. Probably suggest you to do the same. I'm also going to set my horizontal spacing, because I don't want these to be right on top of each other. If you wanted to have them be right on top of each other like that, you could. But I'm going to add a little bit of spacing. I'm going to add the same amount of spacing as my margins. And we'll click preview. And there you go. So now they're laid out in a line. They're laid out in Triptych form. I'm going to make these a little bit bigger. I'm going to set the width to 22 and the height to 8. Take a little off the height. There, that looks good. That looks pretty good to me. So if I was happy with this, I can come right up here and I can click Save Template, and I could say Project 4 Triptych. And now all of this is going to be saved. So I don't ever have to do this again. I can literally start over with my next, you know, I can grab my next images, drag them up, click refresh, and there you go. So this is a really quick way. I always forget to click refresh. Really quick way to lay out sets of images in Triptych form. Refresh again. If I wanted to set these up as diptychs, let's say, I only wanted to do sets of 2. Well, I'm just going to change my number of columns to 2. And I'm going to command click to grab these 2 images here. I'm going to stick them next to each other. I'm going to click refresh. And there you go. Let's set the height to half the width there. I'll take 1 inch off of that just to kind of get my margins even. Take another. There, now it looks pretty good. So there you go. That's diptych form instead. One thing, let me go back to my example page here. One thing that you guys are going to want to be aware of is all of these images are cropped exactly the same. So when you lay them out side by side or in sets of 3, they look pretty good that way, right? If they are not all cropped the same, you're going to have problems, and I'll show you that real quick. So to open multiple images in Camera Raw, I'm just going to select multiple images, right-click, open in Camera Raw. It's going to open Camera Raw. I can see my multiple images over here, right? They look good. To crop, I'm going to go to the crop tool. I'm going to hold the button down, and you can set the aspect ratio, right? So let's say I want to crop them all square. I'm going to go crop to 1:1. Width and height are exactly the same. And I'm just going to drag a box. That looks pretty good. So let's say I crop the 2 of my 3 images. I crop square, and for whatever reason, my 3rd image isn't cropped the same, right? I can click synchronize. Make sure I check the crop box. It'll crop both of them square. So let's say, for whatever reason I forgot to crop my 3rd image as a square, or it's just cropped differently, whatever. See, all of a sudden it doesn't work quite right, does it? It doesn't look very good. So you're going to want to make sure that you crop all of your images the same, so when you lay them out side by side, they look good. So that's a quick way to do it, is to open multiple images in Camera Raw, crop them all. I can then go in after the fact. Oops, I had the wrong one selected. I can go in after the fact and adjust them a little bit, like, if one crop is a little bit off, I'll show you in a second. So there we go. This looks good for this one. I have all 3 selected. I'll click synchronize. I'll check the crop box to make sure that that happens. I could also make any other adjustments I wanted on the right side here. So this is a way to update, like if I had all of my images were a little bit underexposed, I could adjust the exposure for 1, select all of them, and then synchronize the rest of them to that adjustment I made. So this is a way to work in batches. This will save you a lot of time if you have images that need the same correction made on each one. So the way I have this one cropped looks good, but this image, right, it's a little bit off center. So I can then, come in and make adjustments. So you could open each image individually and go through and crop. I find it a little bit easier to just kind of work in batches and then do small adjustments if I need to. So there you go. So you guys can literally, play around, figure out what works best for you. if you want to use something that isn't just, like let's say I wanted to do like, how many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 8 images here. If I wanted to do a layout that was select everything, refresh. Oh, duh. 2 rows, not 4. That looks a little better, huh? So if I wanted to lay stuff out like that, if I wanted to do 3 by 3, so it's up to you guys to decide what layout is going to look best for you. If I had one more image, this would look pretty good as a grid of 9 images, right? This would be a pretty good comparison of the different shape of these things. These were microscopic images I made a couple years ago. So this is you get to see some of the crap that I make. So lots of different layouts you could play with. It's up to you guys if you want to do stuff as Triptych or Diptych or as a kind of grid of images. I think for this project, it's kind of nice to see all the images together as a set, particular for the Art 210 students who are going to be missing out on printing this semester. One of the things you get with printed work is you get to see it as a complete set on the wall together. So I particularly kind of like looking at stuff all together. So, I'd kind of suggest to play around with this a little bit and see how you can lay out your images in a way that looks good, or is kind of similar to how you would see them together as a wall. When you're done, you can click View PDF after Save and just click Save. So there is no way to save these as JPEGs. You can only save them as a PDF file, which is fine. I tend to always have trouble with Acrobat Pro for whatever reason. You can save multiple PDFs. You can upload them as separate PDFs. There's also an option to combine files into a single PDF. So you could export, your 3 or 4 triptychs and then combine them into a single PDF and then upload that. It's up to you guys how you want to do that. But that is an option, is to drag your 3 or 4 or 5 PDFs. Oh, there it is, it crashed. So I tend to, despite having a billion different PDFs and using Acrobat all the time, I tend to always have trouble with it crashing. So if you have trouble with it, just save them as separate PDFs and you can upload those to your blogs and the discussion. So something to think about. If anybody has questions, feel free to drop me an email. If you guys need something else demoed, I can obviously do a screen share in Zoom if you're having trouble with this. If you need something else covered, we haven't really shown any sort of editing examples or anything like that for the second half of the semester since going online. So, anybody that needs one-on-one instruction, I am available. Email me, let me know. If you haven't emailed me about what you're working on for Project 4, I would like to hear it. Please let me know. Otherwise, I will look forward to seeing what you guys come up with next week. We'll talk to you soon.